Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Crimers Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimers Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimers Beer House.
Hey, this is Merle Hutchinson and Kyle Crawford bringing you Strong Dads. Welcome to Strong Dads out there, guys. Thanks for listening. Man, we are going to get after it today. Kyle, what's going on?
Not much. We are recording this a little bit after Memorial Day, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Is your Memorial Day good?
As far it was busy.
Yeah?
It was busy, and the weather wasn't the best either. It got cool around here. Believe it or not, back here in Indiana.
Crying again
About the weather.
It was 70. It wasn't 95. I thought it was perfect out. I went golfing.
Well, we were supposed to go swimming over at my sister's, and, you know, the poor little kids are out there, blue lips, and do we have to go in?
We took our girls swimming. It was the same thing. They get out and their lips are blue. Go back in.
You're
Just
back
get
in there. Suck it up. People have died for you to do this.
Yes. I love it.
All right, having some fun here. So anyway, we're I've been busy. You've been busy. You've been fighting fires and doing different things. So what are you off work again, or did you work?
I just got off work this morning. As you noted earlier before we hit the record button, I'm lively. I'm ready to go. I just got off work. I'm feeling good. You know, when I leave here, I just have an abundance of things to do, Merle. I'm just a busy man, okay?
What else do you do? I mean, the only thing I know you do is you work, and then you come home and you complain about having to work again the next day.
That is not true. It's not true. I love my job.
You do, actually.
Yes, yeah. I have lots going on. I on top of being a dad and the whole firefighter world, I do a little woodworking, Merle. We've made mention to it a couple of times on here.
Yes, you do. So you actually have a little side gig.
I do.
A little side business.
A little side business.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Right.
Let's make a show of this.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about
all in.
Starting your own small business. Why did you start a small business?
That's a great question.
I mean, as if you weren't busy enough.
Well, see, part of the, I guess, the idea behind starting my woodworking business, which I call it 3G Woodworks. It's God.
Little plug. We're allowed to do the plugs, by the way.
I brought my hat in.
Oh, look at you! You're all like designed it up and everything.
3G Woodworks. It's God, Guts, and Glory Woodworks. It's
God, Guts, and Glory Woodworks. 3G. I like it.
It's the three things I think America needs to bring back. And I just made a little slogan out of it.
God, Guts, and Glory.
Yeah, it's God, Guts, and Glory Woodworking.
Okay.
3G Woodwork. So, yeah. So, I guess it's probably been – it started out as a little hobby that I was doing and started to really enjoy it. You know, we did a show in my shop. So, I kind of expanded a little bit, built a little woodworking shop, and started learning different techniques and just really started to enjoy it. And it gets to the point where the hobby you have to make a decision: are you going to turn that hobby into something, or are you just going to keep it as a hobby? And I decided to make it a little something. So I got a little side business, and it's been good. I predominantly make wood American flags, which I thoroughly enjoy to do. And I've since kind of got into the whole cutting boards, coasters. I've been getting into the bourbon barrel tops, strike the iron while it's hot.
So you have to buy like a whole barrel of bourbon. You have to drink the bourbon out, and then you
take
get
that to my small group.
Yeah.
We drink bourbon.
You get, oh yes, finally I've got another lid.
No, just by the top. Actually, from a gentleman down here in Indiana.
That's right. From Lawrenceburg. We have lots of distillery action going on around here.
So it's been something it's been fun to figure it out. Prior to actually doing woodworking, I used to cut grass. I had a little
little side gig there.
A little side biz there. So I try to stay busy because my job allows me to have a lot of time off. So now that my girls are in school full time, you know, we're summertime, but when they're in school, I sit around and twiddle my thumbs and like, all right, so, and then Jenny's like, well, you could clean the house, babe.
Yeah, or I could buy a new tool.
Yeah. So that's my little side biz there.
That's cool.
My little side biz. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about this today because as a strong dad, we are talking about really, if we could kind of theme this up, should I start my own business?
Yeah.
And the idea here is we live in a country where you can actually do this. You can start a business. You have some freedom to do it. I know it can become harder and harder depending on taxes and all of these other different regulations that can be put into place. But the idea that we have the ability and freedom to do that is a privilege. But also, we want to talk about it from the viewpoint of men. Like, why do men, more so than women start businesses too, but why do men have a desire to own their own business, to start their own business? And before we start recording, Kyle and I were talking. I came from the teaching world, the school world, and Kyle, you are in the firefighter world. And we were talking about in those worlds, something that we had very much in common was you would be hard-pressed to find a male in the teaching world that's not an administrator, okay?
Sure.
But a male in the teaching world that doesn't have some kind of side gig.
Yeah.
Oftentimes the side gig is coaching. Okay, so they might coach, and people don't realize the number of hours that a coach can put in. They can put in almost as many hours as they actually do in a classroom.
Sure.
So, but even if they're not into the coaching deal, then I can't tell you how many teachers I know that cut grass, remodel houses, buy and sell properties, whatever it is, they've got a side gig.
Yeah.
All right. And as we were talking, you were coming up with the same thing, like, you'd be hard-pressed to find a fireman that doesn't have a side gig.
Yeah.
And so our conversation was, why? Yeah. Why are these guys looking for a side gig? And I've thought about this many times because I have multiple side gigs myself. And the idea here, I think, is it is hardwired into us strong dads to be the master of something.
Sure.
To accomplish something. To wrap our hands around something and have some ownership, but have some control. Yeah. Because control gives us a sense of stability. Yeah. And if you're in a job that's so big, whether whatever you're an attorney for a huge law firm or something like that, you already got your hands around the beast. You don't need more. Yeah. But if you have a little bit of wiggle room and you're not in control of much, like you're not going to go change the whole firefighting world.
Sure.
So you go and you do your job. I wasn't going to change the teaching world. Right. It's a very structured system. But when I step out of that, I have some freedom to then go and be the owner of something. And it says something about personality. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so, and it's not only just the side hustle. You and Linda decided to start your own business here at Rock Solid Family. And,
right.
And I mean, what was some of the things that kind of led you to that? Because obviously you got out of the teaching world,
right,
in the sense of the formality of a school.
Right.
You got out of that world, and then you and Linda decided to start a business. So what were some of the things that kind of led you to where you're at now?
Well, it started as while I was in the teaching world, I had a side gig. And part of that was my personal training. I had developed some equipment and those kind of things. And so I taught a lot of exercise stuff. What was interesting about that is actually Rock Solid Families is 3 years old. 7 years prior to that, I did marriage and family coaching as well. And so, and we called that Rock Solid Families. That was before we ever had started a business.
Sure.
But I just printed up some cards, and I was like, if I can help some people or whatever. And so I would just, I'd have a few appointments a week or whatever. It wasn't a huge deal. It was just an opportunity for me to grow and for me to help. But I had a couple different gigs going. And then as I was watching my teaching career start to wind down and having the opportunity to be finished with that, it was like, okay, so what do we want to do?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like you just said, it's time to take my hobby into something bigger.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different game, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you should keep things as hobbies.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying them. Because when you turn them into a business, they can go, they're a different animal completely.
Yeah.
But that's what we felt like we should do. And so that's how Rock Solid Families became our full-time gig. It's what we do. And, And the cool thing about it is if it's surviving and doing well, it's because of our work. If it's not, it's because of our bad work. It's on us, and we kind of like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I think we're going to get into more about this, but before we dive more into the show, definitely want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. I actually had a chance. I drove by them today. I dropped my girls off my parents' house and drove by Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and man, you guys have to stop in there, let them know that we sent you down there, and check them out. So really do appreciate them coming alongside of us.
All right. Also want to thank Crimer's Beer House. So thanks to Crimer's for sponsoring Strong Dads. Thanks for the great work that you guys allow to happen each and every week. We ask that if you get a chance and you're on the west side of Cincinnati, stop down on 128 and get yourself a pork chop or steak or some barbarian kraut or something along that line. So Crimer's Beer House, great place. So thanks to those guys for sponsoring us.
Cool. Let's get into this. Let's do it.
All right. So should you start your own business?
Oh, boy.
All right. And so this is always under the idea that you have all the right intentions. And so as Strong Dads, we're not talking to guys here who, if they have their druthers, are going to pick a couch over doing something.
Yep.
If you're a guy who you're naturally kind of lazy and you just want to sit around, you're probably already turned us off. These are for guys who are out there, and I always look at this as each day I have an opportunity to better myself or worsen myself.
Yep.
And I do both of those each day, by the way. So it doesn't always work out. But the intention is, did I do something better? Did I live a fuller life? And I think when you start to look that way, like Strong Dads do, you dig into stuff. You want to know more. You want to go deeper. You want to be better. You want to learn. And so that's kind of a mindset of a strong dad, like, wonder what's out there for me.
Right. And that idea of learning, I think, is so vital to that question of should I start a small business or should I start a business? Because, for me, and I think throughout the show, I'm going to use a reference of me doing the woodworking, and I would expect, the same for you, Merle, as we talk about this. Like, when I started to do the woodworking thing, it started out as a hobby. And then as I learned more and I grew in my skills and my abilities, I learned that I'm onto something. I started to see I have the ability to do this. I have a God-given gift to use my hands, and it's something that it didn't just, God naturally gave me the ability to use my hand, but it was something that I had to work on. I had to, I'm still learning every day. I try and learn a little bit more about woodworking and different techniques to do that. And so that idea is, should I start a small business? I think the first thing you have to realize, like, if you're in a spot where you're not willing to, you think that you're ready to jump into the realm of small business, if you're not willing to continue to learn, I would really would question you whether you're ready to start that, because as you probably know, Merle, with doing Rock Style Families, like, golly, like, the learning is tremendous. Like, you have to have that willingness to learn. We talk all the time about being coachable. Like, you have to be coachable.
Right.
In order to start, to jump into the world of starting a business.
Yeah. Ultimately, you're seeking to be the master of something. I think it's really a good point that you bring up. Like, you're not starting, when we talk about starting a business, it's basically the idea that you have an interest in something and you are able to match a talent of yours with that. Like, it has never even occurred to me to start a woodworking business because I've seen the quality of my woodworking. Okay. So it's not, and it doesn't mean I can't do woodworking. It is the talent. I work through it, but I'm not talented in it. And so there's a difference. And so we start to recognize where our talents are. And when you do, and you go, okay, is this of quality enough that I can serve others? Yeah. When I'm talking about serving others, I'm serving the people that I'm actually making product or doing service for. I'm talking about serving my family. Am I going to be able to maybe bring some income in and help provide? And I'm serving God by using my talent. So these are the things that, when people are willy-nilly are out there, I want to own a business. Well, we're going to actually go through some different thought processes, and this is not like totally done and inclusive, like it includes everything. But these are some major points that we want to challenge you guys. If you're a young guy out there and you're like, man, I kind of got some fire in my belly, I've thought about this before, let's run through these things and see where you are matching up or maybe where you have some shortfalls and see what we can do to shore it up. At the end of this show, we'd either love you to be on fire, to start the business or go, yeah, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. All right. Starting a business with a lukewarm heart is doomed to failure.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it's all in kind of thing. So
yeah. So let's you kind of jot down some of these things, and I think they're really good stuff. So if you're out there, if you're questioning yourself, wondering if you should turn that hobby into maybe a business, or you have an interest in something, like we're gonna go over. Hopefully, again, these aren't the end all be all. These are just some 10 things to decide if you should be jumping into that small business or into the realm of a business world.
Okay.
And the first one that you kind of written down, I think is so true. Like, there has to be some self-evaluation. Like, is there a need or want for the product or the idea that I want to jump into? And this is this is one of those, like, you had written down a need, and like I picture myself in the woodwork. It's like, people don't need like an American flag up on their wall, right? So I kind of threw in that, like, things that they might want, right? So I think that's where the product idea comes in, where on the Rock Style Family, like, there is a need for counseling and coaching, married couples and families, and benefiting, we talk about generational, benefit of that. So definitely there's absolutely a need for counseling and coaching in the marriage world. For me, it was more of a want. So.
Yeah, but the idea when I say, is there a need, it really is, would people be willing to separate from their money?
Yeah.
To get this. And so I know we're using the word need and want, but there are people who want something so bad that they're willing to need it. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, like, and that's what we have to assess. Like, I made a piece of fitness equipment that I fell in love with. I loved it. And we still use it. We use it every day. We teach classes with it.
Sure.
And I instantly thought everybody would want this. Okay. Because we get blind by our emotion and our ambition. And I thought everybody would want it. And it comes to find out that actually a lot of people do want it, but they don't want it for the cost.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, if I gave them away, we'd be making them all day long. But obviously you can't sustain a business in doing that. So that's where you have to go through and, like, wait, would people have a desire to separate from their money? Is this going to be that useful of a product or service? And the best way that you find out about this is, man, you have to seek truth. So you have to give people permission to say, yeah, it's pretty cool what you're doing, but now I don't really feel like I have any desire to have one. And, you can tell when you are excited about your product or your service, you do all the talking and you don't get people's input. Like, and then you can do this with it, and then you can do that, and then you can do that. And they're just going, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, okay, cool. And in the meantime, you think you just sold them on something and you never listened to their response. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they go, okay, yeah, well, I'll get back with you. So you've got to give people permission to talk to you. You've got to bring it to your close friends, and you've got to say, what do you think? Tell me what's wrong with this. Yep. Don't tell me what's right with it, because I've already figured out what's right with it. I'm in love with this thing. Right. Tell me what's wrong with it. Yep. And that will help you decide whether there's truly a need for it.
Yep. And that's funny, because I started getting into the cutting board world, and I handed out a few cutting boards just as hey, try this out, let me know, right? And my mom's cutting boards like warping. I'm like, crap. I go back to the drawing table. I got to figure this out, right? So just what you were saying, like, you have to allow people to be like, before I can take a cutting board to the market to actually start selling it, I got to find out if there's actually like a use, like, is this actually a decent product here? But if I would just go and sell those cutting boards, I'm going to get terrible feedback from people who actually spent money on these things, right?
That's funny, yeah. But that's how you learn, My sister does pottery, and she does beautiful pottery work. But when she was first starting, she did stuff that looked beautiful. Yeah. And so she started with coffee mugs, okay? Yeah. And so she was giving all of her siblings, these coffee mugs, and we're drinking coffee, and as we're drinking, all of a sudden the handle falls off and the coffee goes, and we're like, ah! And we never have sued her, but the idea, like, okay, listen, that was a really cool looking coffee mug, but we got to go back to the drawing board, and that's okay, right? You have to really know what you're dealing with and whether it's of that kind of quality. Yeah. So it goes to number 2, and that is, so what you are all about, what is the value in it? Is it value adding or value subtracting or value neutral? Meaning, like, there are a lot of super cool things. You know, a Ferrari is a very super cool thing. But is it a good value?
Yeah.
And value basically means, like, for the money that I have, for my money, is it something that I will get a good return of use on? Okay. And again, just because something looks cool to you doesn't mean it's a good value.
Yeah.
And so, like I told you, like the one product that I built, it ended up for most people to not be a very good value because it was a large piece of fitness equipment.
Sure.
And so it was going to take a lot of space and it was expensive. And so those were things that all of a sudden people said, not the value that I need.
Yep.
But look, I've got a bunch of these pieces of equipment, you know?
Yeah.
So I was sold on it. It wasn't the value.
Which you know, that idea is, you know, you'll say, like, how much is your house worth? Well, it's worth what someone's willing to pay for it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And what you were talking about earlier, I think this is where a lot of times, you know, myself included, fall into this trap where you get emotionally attached to your product or your idea.
I refer to them as my kids. I really do.
I mean, because you have this vision and you get attached to them emotionally. And the problem is a client or someone who's coming in, you know, a customer, they don't have that emotional connection to it.
Right.
So they are putting more of a monetary value on something. And so the idea, just you were talking about what your equipment, like, you're emotionally attached to these things, right? So you were like, the value, holy cow, $1 million, right? But someone is actually, just what we were talking about before, like, can they separate their money for this product?
That's right. Yeah.
And when they can look at it, because that's what a customer does. They can take the emotional aspect of it away because they didn't make it. I mean, all my stuff is handmade. Like, I touched every board that I put on this American flag. Like, I hand engrave every single star. Like, I have this emotional connection with this item. I'm like, yeah, this sucker's worth $150, right? Yeah. And someone's like, well, not really.
It'll just collect dust in my house. Yeah.
So it's just that idea of the value.
So the third thing is if you're really excited about starting your business, there is always, you think about jumping rope, okay? So I'm thinking of, like, a couple of little kiddos out there on the playground and they're jumping rope. And when they get the rope spinning, there is a time to jump in. There's something called timing, a time to jump in to start, and there's a time to sit back and wait. And this is where you have to start to really put your emotions into check and start looking at market timing. Like I'm looking at right now, the whole idea of starting a brand new business today in the construction world.
Yeah.
Well, as we are speaking and recording, construction costs are at an all-time high.
Crazy.
You can't get materials. You can't get help, okay? And so I'm not saying no. What I'm saying is you better evaluate, like, what this means.
Yep.
Because your cost of entry, your timing now, for right now, might be so bad that you'll be out of business before you're in business. And so when we started our Rock Solid Families, the timing was good. At that time, there was a lot of stuff going on. We had a lot of connection to people that were in need, and the financial situation was available. And so all of a sudden, those pieces started to come together. And we recognize that, like, oh my gosh, now's the time to jump in to the market. Right?
So true, yeah.
But not all, every business has a startup window, and you have to kind of seize that.
Yeah, man, that's good. I mean, as we move to the fourth thing, to start looking about whether I should start that small business, with everything, there's going to be sacrifice, and for a small business, there's naturally going to be a financial sacrifice you're going to have to give up. There's definitely going to be a time. I mean, if you're really committed to starting this small business, you're going to have to put time, money, and effort into it, right? I've made reference to this before that if you want to know what you're about, look at your schedule and your bank account.
Yeah.
And if you're passionate about a small business, go for it. Absolutely. But just understand that what you're going to be, in order to put forth time and effort into something else is going to be sacrificed. Something else you're going to have to give up. And we've done whole shows on filling your schedule with too much stuff, and then all of a sudden you look back and it's like, where did my day go? Did I even get the time to spend with my kids? So when we talk about, starting a small business and what that looks like, just understand. And I think that's probably pretty common to think like, there's going to be a sacrifice associated with this. And then, for me, like I realize when, especially like right around Christmas time, when a lot of orders are coming, I know that I'm sacrificing time away from my girls, a little bit, because I have to put these orders out. I have to get these orders, I have to fulfill these orders. So just understand that in the small business world, like, or just in the business world, like there's definitely a sacrifice.
Right. And I want to extend that too, because I think we look at a lot of times a sacrifice from what we have to give. Okay. But we're talking to strong dads here. And the last thing that we want to do is blow a family apart.
Yep.
Okay. And so when I look at and consider starting a new business, I absolutely, encourage you to look at, well, what's the family going to have to sacrifice?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I can go work 16-hour days, but what does that do to my family?
Sure.
All right. And so that whole idea starts to get added into the mix. And listen, I've told you I've had several side gigs, and one of the things that I measured very early on, because I am more of a dreamer and like to do these kinds of different things, and my wife is one of security. Like she wants to make sure the lights are going to be on, the bills are going to be paid. And so I was doing stuff that was making her really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could do this, we could do that. And so my impulsivity is going out there and I'm ready to jump in to start the next business. And she's back there choking out. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I finally made a commitment to her. I said, I recognize what I'm doing here. And so I am not going to do anything that is going to put our marriage or family at risk.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to do it without your blessing.
Yeah.
And so that means some of my businesses, my ideas never really got launched. And that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to come to deal with that because maybe it was all about me and not about we.
Yeah.
And so understanding the sacrifice goes beyond you, and it's whoever you're connected to.
And part of that, and he won't mind because I'm going to call him out. My brother, like he's in the restaurant world right now, and the company he works for, they're opening up stores, and he's in the realm, like he's in the thick of it right now. And he always talks about like working hard now to enjoy life, setting himself up. And I think it's so true because like when they open up a store, my brother's busy, like for a good month. But I also realize that him and his wife have had that conversation. Hey, these next months is going to be a little rocky.
Right.
I'm by no means putting you second to my work, but just understand like, hey, I have to do this. I have to work really hard now. And you have to, I need you right there with me. Right. So that way in 10 years from now, I put ourselves in a really good position.
Right. Yeah. So it's that whole idea of getting everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, so the fifth thing is, what is the financial cost and the risk-reward ratio, okay? So a lot of things are great ideas, all right? But what is the risk-reward ratio financially? At the end of the day, we have a country and a place where we can start businesses. We have a financial system that allows us to do things like get loans and to get those kinds of supports. But, doing it responsibly means that there's going to be a cost. And doing it responsibly means I'm responsible for the cost.
Yep.
All right. And so what is the risk? We watch Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And
yeah.
I actually auditioned for Shark Tank
really?
once with one of our products.
Right.
Didn't make it. I got rejected. But the idea there is we watch that show, and you'll have some people that come on and go, our startup cost was $500 and now we're making $1 million a year. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Good for you.
Yeah. You're like, that's what I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
But then you have even way more people that they're starting to get this really cool product out. And you're like, okay, so what's your investment? What do you have in it? Well, we've raised $2.4 million. Well, how much have you made? Well, we've made $500,000. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. And so looking at the cost of the risk and the reward has to be taken into account. Like this goes even into your kids going to college. Okay.
Sure.
Like forever people said, go to college. Well, you know what? College now has a huge cost risk reward ratio that's out of whack.
Yeah.
If I go to college and I come out, go to college, come out with $150,000 of debt, and I'm going to be a school teacher and I make $35,000 a year. That was bad advice.
Yeah.
That was bad parenting advice that allowed that kid to get upside down for the better part of their life, if not all their life.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens here when we start a business. I get so excited about the business. I don't care whatever money it takes. I'll go secure loans. I'll get grants. I'll get investors. Well, guess what? It all has to be paid back.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're talking to strong dads, and naturally, I think men, there definitely is that cost, just like you're saying, Merle. But what the point I was trying to make is like I feel like men just have a natural just a pride about themselves, right?
Right.
We're just prideful, and that's obviously it's biblical to not be that way. But I think just naturally men are prideful. So when we talk about that risk versus reward when it costs to finances, I also think there's a risk versus reward when it comes to your pride. Like you may venture into a small business and it fails. Like, and failure is a part of life, and you have to be able to swallow that and be like, all right, it was, it's in reference to Shark Tank. Sometimes there's people when they don't get the deal, right?
You don't even get through the audition.
You take that step back. Yes, there was a financial commitment that you made, and maybe it's not going to pay off. But also, like, you have to be like, all right, maybe again taking the emotions out of it. Maybe what I have here, the product I have, the idea that what I want to venture into, maybe there's not a market for it. Going back a couple steps where there just isn't that market.
Right.
Like maybe your timing's off. If you're venturing into construction right now, just like you're saying, like it's just not a good time. And not to say that what you have isn't valuable, because I think someone has what you have in your ideas. There is value in it.
Right.
You just got to find the right person or the right timing for it. So just understand that if you venture into a business and it does fail, like you got to swallow your pride a little bit, maybe just to do some reevaluation.
Well, the facts is that most businesses go out of business. Well, and pretty much all businesses go out of business at some point in time. Okay, and so the idea of understand that losing is part of this picture, and how are you going to handle the lost part? All right, so moving the next part is something that I think I just didn't quite get. When I was building fitness product, and that is, who's your competition?
Yep.
So you think that I created something that, for all practical purposes was never invented before. Okay. And so it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. Like I'll be the guy. And the reality of it is I have to know and study who the competition is.
Absolutely.
Because the competition is often it's not just selling the product, it's who's going to be working with you or against you and getting that. And so I came to realize that as I was starting to get ramped up, that there were people with a lot bigger pockets than me.
Yeah.
And so there was some influence of, I see what you're doing over there. We can go around that patent, we can dance through this, and we've got thousands, if not millions of dollars to throw at this. And so trying to figure out how you sit in the marketplace, you might think you're something special, but there's already somebody back there waiting to capitalize off of you. So recognizing your competition is extremely important. Don't discount that. Study them and figure out how you're going to work in that system.
Yep. And with that competition, this is something when I started getting to the woodworking, I started making these American flags. Like there's a buttload of guys who are selling American flags. Yeah. They're everywhere, right?
None of them are as good as yours. I mean, I've studied that. But
well, and that's what I was going to say. Like I looked at what the products and my competition, the guys that are also selling American flags, and I try to do something a little different. Like I hand engrave
what's going to set you apart.
Yeah, I hand engrave every one of my stars to make sure that I can actually say it's hand engraved, handmade, and not to say that the other guys aren't doing that. So my flags, I hand engrave every one. I put a border around all my flags, like stuff like that separates mine from other people. And again, theirs looks good. It has value. People want that. But because I've studied that, I can put a certain price tag on my flags because I do spend a little bit of extra time, effort, and I put that into them.
Right. Yeah. And you have to separate yourself.
Yeah.
Like what is it about yours that makes it better? That's how you beat the competition, or at least run with them.
Yep.
All right. So our next point is, man, this was humble pie right here. Okay. The next part is the idea of recognizing what your strengths are, and more importantly, what your weaknesses are. Okay. So the reason why this is a big deal is because when we go to start a business, we already know our strengths. That's what got us thinking this to begin with. You're good at wood. You got the tools. You got the energy. These are the strengths that you bring to the game. When we started Rock Solid Families, Linda and I obviously felt like we were pretty talented at being able to coach and work with people. Otherwise, we would have never even gone down that road.
Sure.
But we have come to find out exactly how bad we are at certain things, okay? And, we did not really know what we were bad at until we recognized in the middle of it, oh, geez, we are not good at this. But these are the things that are holding us back. So, like, I'll just be, transparent. Like, Linda and I feel very confident going in and counseling and coaching people, especially marriage and family. And those turbulent situations, there's a lot of nerves in the middle of those sessions and emotion. And, but we're right there rolling with it. But, one of the things that we are terrible at is marketing, getting our message out, growing our business.
Yeah.
Neither one of us enjoy spending time in marketing. We don't like selling ourselves. That's not something that is in our nature to do. And so it's like, oh my gosh, the business, sometimes we feel like it struggles because we don't do a very good job of marketing.
Yeah.
And so that is actually what we're trying to work on now. Like, we're trying to figure out, okay, do I need to hire somebody? Do I need to get some different software or programming? Do I need to create a different budget for this? And again, surrounding yourself with the right people, these are the things that help you get through your weaknesses. And if you don't, the sooner you can recognize your weakness, the better you are to not letting it become an obstacle.
And on that, though, if you just recognize you have weaknesses and do nothing about it, you've done nothing.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I'm if I, my obviously my side business of woodworking, if I jump into the firefighter world, that is my profession, that the job that I do, like, if I were just to say that I'm not good at a certain aspect of my job and then do nothing about it, well, it's going to rear its ugly head, right? I'm going to go on a fire that there's something that I'm not strong at. So it's one thing just to recognize you have a weakness. It's another thing to do something about it. I seek out outside trainings because I want to be the absolute best fireman I can be. And so I have weaknesses in my profession, and I want to get better at those. Just like you were talking about before, like if you're selling your product and all you're doing is the one talking, that probably means you have a weakness that you don't want people to discover. You're like, if I just keep talking and keep trying to sell something and keep telling you how good my product is, then my weakness will never be discovered. And I think that's a flawed way of thinking, because your weaknesses are what they are, and we should explore them and dive into them, and let's fix them. Let's not just keep them as weakness. Let's turn them into strength.
Get them covered. Yeah. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." And that's, man, especially if you're on the start of trying to start a business, seek counsel, get advice. I mean, we have for Rock Solid Families, we actually have a board, and because we're a nonprofit, that's part of the structure that you have to have. And our board, we have advisors within that board where I can call and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And they tell me sometimes things I don't want to hear, all right? But that's part of you becoming more and more refined.
Yeah. So as we continue, the ninth thing to kind of start looking at is, and I think this goes with anything in life, like you have to have motivation behind what you're doing. Like, what are your motivations? Why are you trying to venture into a business? Is it because you just want to make money? Like, is that why you're in it? Do you want to, improve your skills? Do you want to be someone who can employ people? Like, what is the reason why you're doing what you're doing? Because I think at the end of the day, if the sole reason you're venturing into a business is to make money, like, obviously that is a big part of a business. Like, if it's not, then you're just doing a hobby, right? That's what a hobby is. You're not in it for the money. But if you're in it for the sole reason of just making money, like, I think that maybe you need to take a step back, because your motivations have to go beyond money, because, money, as nice it is to have a lot of it, it's not gonna provide you the fulfillment that a true motivation. I'm motivated at woodworking because I want to get really good at this. I love just tinkering with my hands, even if it's just going to the shop for 10 minutes and just tinkering around and just figuring something out. Like I bring my girls into the shop now and they're learning how to do stuff. And I love that. Like at the beginning, maybe that wasn't my motivation.
Right.
But it's since turned into that. I love woodworking.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's not just, I want to make money. There's so much more to it. I love just working with my hands. I feel like that's a gift God gave me. I want to use that.
Right. Yeah, when you work within your gifts and your talents, God rewards that. And if that means to financially take care of yourself, then he brings that to you. There's no shortage of people signing up for get-rich-quick schemes. And that says a whole lot about you. If you have somebody who's just looking for a franchise, that this franchise makes a lot of money, they got a quick turnaround on that, chances are that person's going to go through a hard burnout session because their heart's not in it. I mean, to get through difficult times, you have to have a heart to do it. So think about what your motivation is from. Not that money can't be in the picture, but if
Absolutely.
that is your soul, like, man, I'm going to make a lot of cash out of this, it's probably, well, I will tell you that chances are I won't want to do business with you because I'll be able to tell that you're not into the quality of the service, you're into how fast you can turn the service.
Yeah, which I think goes right into this last point that we got at, like what you're doing, like your motivation that you have. Truly, you need to look at your motivation, and one of the underlining themes through everything should be, how is what I'm doing gonna further God's kingdom?
Yeah,
and it's so it's maybe it's hard. For me it is. It's like I look at where like, okay, what am I gonna do that is going to further God's kingdom? How is what I'm going to do, bless other people? And one of the things that I've realized, like I've made a flag before that when I gave it to the customer, they bought it, they just weren't happy with it. There was something about it that just didn't really, and I'm like, hey, I got you. I'm going to remake you a flag that you actually like. I'm going to take it back. No charge, obviously.
Right.
And again, is that really blessed someone? I don't know, but I feel like I'm standing behind what I do.
Yeah, and that experience blesses them. Like, oh my gosh, this guy cares enough that
absolutely.
He wants to do what would be right for me.
Yep, and I think when you talk about getting into a business, like it is so easy to take shortcuts, and it is so easy to do things quick and easy and make it really quick, and that's something that I pride myself on when it comes to my work. Like I'm attention to detail. Like if I put something in and it doesn't look good, man, I want to make it right. And again, just like we were saying, maybe that is the part of furthering God's kingdom, just that the experience that they're dealing with somebody who actually cares about the product that they're giving you and you're buying.
Yeah, you're selling more than just a wood craft product.
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've wrapped up 10 different items that hopefully you guys that are out there, you're listening, you're wanting to be better, you're trying to grow each day. Hopefully some of these have piqued your interest and got you thinking. Here's the challenge this week, and I want you to really think about this. And this is something that I always think about when I have any venture that I'm looking to get into. All right, so I ask you to ask this question. 20 years from now, or let's even go further out, when you are on your deathbed, okay, will you have a regret that you didn't ever pursue this business or this interest that you have? We did a show not too long ago where we talked about the woulda, shoulda, coulda guy.
Yeah.
The guy who, he had the talent and he should have or he could have. Yep. And so if you can go, you know what, if 20 years down the road, I'm going to be kicking myself in the butt because I didn't give this a try, then by all means, you need to go through these 10 steps that we put out there, and you need to get aggressive, and you need to figure this out. Because if you're not going to be happy with who you are 20 years out because you didn't quite chase what was on your heart, you're going to be that grumpy old man with a lot of cynicism in your heart. And so that's how, there's a lot of things that 20 years from now, I'm like, oh, really, who cares? I didn't, it was just, I thought about buying a motorcycle, but who cares if I didn't have a motorcycle? But if there are certain things like, man, that's always something I wanted to do and I just never did it. No, that's on you. You've got to do that.
For sure. I love it. So, yeah, do some self-evaluation. If there's something you want to venture into, do the risk versus reward. I mean, go through these steps like you're saying, Merle. Man, see if there's something there. Man, we really appreciate you guys. This is I always enjoy doing these shows. I hope you guys enjoy listening to them. If you do, share the heck out of them. That's how we get our message out there, is just by word of mouth. And so share the heck out of these. Give us a 5-star rating on all the platforms of all the podcasts on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page on Rock Solid Families. Really do appreciate you guys staying tuned every week and as we put shows out. Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Kramer's Beer House, thanks so much for coming alongside of us. We really do appreciate you, and I think we're good, aren't we?
I think we're good. So go out there and be a strong dad.
I know it's a very serious show. We got to lighten it up.
Be a strong dad. All right, signing off. I'd like to welcome Casey's Outdoor Solutions as a new sponsor to our podcast. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home. Let's go start a business. Like maybe we
could do an IT business. I'm really good at that, Merle.
Oh, you're great at IT work. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'll last about a day. So, yeah.